Hey guys, welcome back to the next video. Today we're going to be sculpting the details and the forms that we talked about the hand or with the hand. Now, I'm back here in ZBrush. I isolated the hands so that it's easier for me to work. And the one thing that I always like to do is I like to come here and start adding the pads. Because I believe that the pads really give the hand like a huge boost in the, or a huge boost towards hitting our goal or towards realism. So I'm just gonna start adding a little bit of fat here. Remember that we have 4 pads here beneath the fingers and they all kind of lump together into a big long one. But it's important to kind of give each one of them a little bit more volume so that it feels like each one has its own personal form. Now, don't get the hand too fat or don't get the wrinkles here too deep, because that's gonna pretty much take away from the general thing that we're going for. We want realism, and realism tends not to exaggerate things too much. So yeah, just be careful there. Now I'm gonna grab my Damien standard. I'm gonna mark here very quickly the main cuts, and I'm gonna go into the fingers. This is the most important thing for me, knowing where each finger pretty much cuts around. Now, the issue here, or one of the issues that we have, is that we're working with not that much geometry. We're at, how many polygons? A little bit more than 500,000 polygons. So the issue there is that the amount of geometry that we have and the topology that we have is not the best topology to work with these kind of details. Therefore, the only thing I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna give myself a little bit of a guide so that later on, when I divide this a little bit more after I finish the rest of the muscles and start working on the face, I'm gonna have something that's gonna allow me to come back and retouch a lot of the stuff. Because again, we don't have enough topology here. So just an indication, making very sure that we're following kind of like where the knuckles are, so that the folds here make sense in regards to their proportions and their placement. Usually the placement, like the middle finger has the highest ones, and then the other ones follow suit. So just be careful there to kind of obey properly the proportions of the things. Like there. Of course, in the base of the fingers we're gonna have, and this is very important, where the fingers join the hand or the palm, it's very important to have enough space in between the fingers. One very common mistake that the students make is that they will draw, or they will do the hands in this way. Oh. Even when they do the retopology, like everything is triangular there, like one finger is immediately pasted to the next one, and that makes for a very difficult thing to both get nice bakes out of and to rig them. So the advice is to do this. A bit of a gap here and there. It's easier for us to do the retopology, and it's also easier for us to do the rigging. Now here, I'm gonna push this up here so that everything starts in the same place. I'm gonna try Dynamesh. Let's hope we don't lose a lot of detail. No, that's good enough. Now on the other side of the palm, what I am gonna add are the knuckles, because this hand is semi-flexed, so it is important to add the volume of the knuckles. And we can make use of what we learned about the tendons, carve a little bit there, and add a little bit of the tendons. The 2 center tendons, like the one for the middle finger and the ring finger, are the ones that are usually the most notorious. Pinky finger doesn't usually get like a very strong tendon, so just do that for those. I personally, and this is just a personal preference, I like grabbing the hand at the wrist, roughly where the wrist starts. And I like twisting the hand slightly upwards so that you get a change of plane here, like so. That way your silhouette comes straight and then boom, changing planes. That I personally feel like that gets a nicer looking character, and it helps because it's gonna allow us to know where the wrist starts really easily. But some people don't like that, so it's okay. It's up to you if you want to implement that or not. There is one pit though, right here, that exists thanks to the tendons. So I do suggest carving a little bit of it. Not that much, but just a little there to indicate where things are gonna be. Now, don't worry about the details. Here's that's a very common misconception. People think that just because we're working on the hands, we need to have our like our fingerprints and all the wrinkles for the knuckles and whatnot. No. This is not the time to do that. We're still on the building phases of our character, and if we have nice form here, getting the details later on, it's not gonna be an issue. And actually, since this is a game character, I sometimes take the route of not doing high frequency details here and waiting until I'm texturing and textured based on the total size of my texture, because what's the point of having, I don't know, 50 million polygons here if my character is going to be for a cell phone game where I'm only going to get a 512 by 512 map. In that case, all of the amazing detail that you did is going to be worthless because it's not going to be transferred into the texture. And it's just extra work that you shouldn't be doing in regards to productivity, of course. Now, if this is a portfolio piece or if the character is going to have a cinematic debut and you need to have both a super low poly and a super high poly, then in that case, yeah, be my guest and do as many wrinkles and pores as you want in the high poly. There you go. It's looking really nice. See the hands? Nice looking for. I think I went a little bit too far. I'm just going to bring that back slightly. There we go. Very good. Now I think my bicep's a little bit short, so I'm just gonna move it a little bit, not that much. And this is a perfect stage for you to go to someone who's not into 3D, show them your progress and be like, hey, what do you think about this? And actually, that's a good advice I would like to give you guys. When you're asking for advice from other people, don't ask them, what was the trick? There's a trick in regards to psychology. Don't ask what's wrong, because if you ask what's wrong, people are going to point a lot of things, and sometimes they won't even have a good reason to say that something looks wrong. They would just like, people, we like to criticize, so people will just start like, this looks wrong, I don't like this, I don't like that, and they might give you subjective review or subjective feedback that won't help your sculpture. For instance, they might say, I don't like the way their breast looks. Maybe that person likes a smaller breast or bigger breast, I don't know. Maybe they'll say, their hands are too skinny or their shoulders are too narrow. Like, those are most of the time subjective things of what each thinks is or looks nice, right? So the key point here is, if you're asking for advice, ask them, what would you change? Not what's wrong, what would you change? Because they might think that the breasts look wrong, but they wouldn't change it, you know? So that's a way to get better feedback out of people and not get extremely annoyed by their responses. And be very mindful of feedback. I always try to look for feedback from people that I know are better than me, so that I know that their feedback's more valuable. But that doesn't mean that people that know less than you are not to be heard, because sometimes you might be making very obvious mistakes, and unless you ask those people, you won't be able to know. I remember one time I was working on another female character, one of my first female characters, and I was having a hard time with the corset. She had a corset, and I was trying to adjust how her boobs looked. And I went to my mom and to my sister and I asked them, hey, what do you guys think about this? And they were like, no, that's not the way it works. And they helped me out. Even though they are not 3D artists, they were able to give me their perspective as women. And that was really helpful for my character. So don't hesitate to ask for feedback, even in these starting stages. Just be mindful. If someone says, it's missing details, I don't see the pores, I don't see the wrinkles, don't pay attention to that detail. Just keep going and keep pushing, and everything's gonna end up, or it's gonna work out in the end. Another thing I suggest you do, and this is what I'm gonna do to close this video, is the following. Of course, I'm gonna save here. Let me save real quick. Remember, always save several times if possible. Just drop your guy or your girl. In this case, I'm gonna do the T key to drop a drawing onto the canvas, and I'm gonna load a previous one, maybe number 1, which was just the torso. And look at how far you go. Like, it's really important that you keep yourself motivated, and whatever you need to do to keep yourself motivated throughout your work, do it, because otherwise you're gonna get burned out and things are not gonna look nice in your at the end. So for me, for instance, this really helps. I like seeing where it started and where it's now, and this way I can see if things are looking nice or not. For instance, I can see that my arms look way nicer. They're slim, the anatomy is there, the torso looks proportionate, I think it's good. The shoulders, I really like how they're looking. But there's one thing I just noticed, and that's the fact that the neck is too thin now. So I'm gonna go back into my tool here, clean my canvas, and I'm gonna give her a little bit of a thicker neck. Not that much, just a little bit more realistic. And I think it's a little bit too toned as well, so I'm just gonna soften it up. Not that much, that was a little bit too much. There we go. See? So that's the way we're gonna keep moving on. We're gonna do some changes, see how we're doing, compare it to previous versions. If you don't like previous versions, just go back, look at reference, look at other artists, and try not to do everything in just like one sitting. It's always good to take a little bit of a break and then come back and keep working. So I'm gonna finish the video right here. I wish you guys the best of luck, and in the next couple of videos we're gonna start looking at the muscles of the legs, thighs, and feet. Finally, we're getting closer and closer to the most important part of our character. It's going to be the face. That's the most fun part, and I always leave it until the end, because if not, then everyone just forgets about the body. Anyway, I wish you guys the best of lucks, and I'll see you next time.